Tottenham captain Christian Romero speaks out again on Instagram and probably says what every Spurs fan is feeling at the moment. A full transfer window wrap, which should take up about 20 seconds of your time, and an overview on the ENIC era. Here are your daily Tottenham news headlines. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name's Craig and here are your daily Tottenham news headlines where I'll be going through all the latest news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube and are not already as yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. Like, share and comment below, and if you're listening on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. And finally, please make sure you turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever we go live or upload a video to the channel. Okay, let's get into it. Via Sport Bible, Christian Romero has spoken out following Tottenham Hotspur's lack of action during the final day of the transfer window. After 4 weeks of moves, the transfer window officially shut once again on Monday evening, meaning clubs will now have to wait until June 15th to complete any further deals. Several Premier League clubs remained busy throughout January, with Manchester City perhaps the biggest winners after they completed deals for both Antoine Semenyo and Mark Guéhi. However, not every club's fans are happy with their side's business in the transfer window, with many Tottenham Hotspur fans feeling the club didn't do enough given their current position of 14th in the Premier League. And it appears that club captain Christian Romero shares this view as he took to social media to hit out at the club in a damning statement posted shortly after the window was closed. The Spurs captain decided to speak out about Spurs' lack of business in the transfer window despite the fact they are dealing with so many injuries. Posting on Instagram, Romero wrote, "Great effort from all my teammates yesterday, they were incredible. I wanted to be available to help them even though I wasn't feeling well, especially since we only had 11 players available. Unbelievable, but true and disgraceful. We'll keep showing up and taking responsibility to turn this around, working hard and staying together. All that's left is to thank all of you for being there and for always supporting us, the fans." Romero's decision to make the statement shortly after the transfer window closed, with Spurs failing to make any first team signings on deadline day, further shows his frustration with the club. Tottenham Hotspur's winter transfer window ended with a modest flurry rather than the meaningful reinforcement many supporters and pundits felt was needed. With the Premier League transfer window closing on 2nd of February, Spurs made just a handful of moves, far fewer than rivals, leaving squad depth dangerously thin amid a severe injury crisis. Tottenham's confirmed incoming transfers in January were as follows: Conor Gallagher, midfielder from Atletico Madrid, for around £34 million. Sousa, a young left-back from Santos, around £13 million, and James Wilson, an 18-year-old forward on loan from Hearts with an option to buy. These were offset by the sales of Brennan Johnson to Crystal Palace for £35 million, effectively balancing the books, but doing little to strengthen the squad. By the end of the window, Spurs had spent technically only about £15 million net on additions, a figure that many fans feel is inadequate given the club's injury woes. The lack of meaningful reinforcement has prompted sharp criticism from players and supporters alike. As we said, Tottenham captain Christian Romero publicly condemned the situation, calling the squad shortage disgraceful after Spurs could field only 11 available senior players against Manchester City. Fans vented on social media and forums that Spurs had only brought in one signing who can realistically compete for first-team starts, Gallagher, and that other acquisitions appeared aimed at the future rather than immediate impact. Now, the reasons behind a quiet window, several factors may explain Tottenham's cautious winter business. Reports suggest Spurs pursued a small number of targets, but were unable to convert interest into deals, such as missing out on other attacking options before the deadline. By selling Johnson and reallocating funds, Spurs may have been aiming for financial prudence, perhaps prioritising long-term sustainability or summer activity over a heavy January spend. Speculation around potential returns of players such as James Maddison and Dejan Kulusevski may have tempered urgency for signings. Managerial uncertainty and board strategy. A broader question raised in the media and fan debate is whether the club's transfer stance reflects uncertainty about Thomas Frank's long-term future at Spurs. Some pundits and supporters have speculated that inquiries about future managerial changes or pressure on Frank might have influenced recruitment decisions, with the club possibly reluctant to commit heavily ahead of a potential managerial shift. However, contrary voices such as former Tottenham manager Tim Sherwood insist that Frank is likely to remain in charge, pointing to his influence on the transfer business and board's broader project vision. With many fixtures remaining and Spurs entrenched in a tight Premier League table, supporters believe more significant squad reinforcement is necessary. A number of fans and commentators have already signalled that the real business must happen in the summer, with the winter window's limited activity seen as a missed opportunity to stabilise this season. Whether this measured approach is down to strategic planning, financial caution or internal uncertainty about the managerial future, Tottenham Hotspur's January transfer window will be remembered as one of pragmatism again, but perhaps not one of ambition. Now let's have a look at ENIC. Tottenham Hotspur's modern history is often famed as a story of almost title challengers, almost European heavyweights, almost a club that cracks the glass ceiling, separating the elite from the hopefuls. And running through that narrative like a stubborn thread that never quite disappears is the role of ENIC, the ownership group that has controlled Spurs since 2001. To many supporters, ENIC haven't just overseen near misses, they've repeatedly failed the manager's tasked with turning promise into silverware. A pattern of promise, then restraint across 2 decades, Tottenham have regularly found themselves on the brink of something bigger, only for momentum to stall when decisive investment was required. Different managers, different squads, same underlying complaint. When Spurs have needed 2 or 3 elite additions to elevate a very good team into a great one, the backing has too often fallen short, either through frugality, slow negotiations or a recruitment strategy that prioritised value over proven top-tier quality. Harry Redknapp, the window that never came. Redknapp built a thrilling side that reached the Champions League quarter-finals in 2010-11, beating AC Milan along the way with Luka Modric, Gareth Bale and Rafael van der Vaart. Spurs had genuine star power, but instead of doubling down while the club had Champions League pull, Spurs drifted. Modric and Bale were eventually sold and the replacements rarely matched their level. That team should have been the foundation of a sustained top 4 dominance. Instead it became another what if. Mauricio Pochettino, a miracle run, not a finished project. But Pochettino's tenure is the clearest example of a manager overachieving despite structural limitations. He built a young, aggressive, tactically modern side that consistently finished in the top 4 and reached the Champions League final in 2019. Yet during key periods of his reign, Spurs either failed to sign players he wanted or went entire transfer windows without a single addition. Famously, the 2018-19 season, the one that ended in Madrid, came after 0 signings across 2 windows. 0. For a club trying to compete with Europe's elite, the squad aged, depth thinned and fatigue set in. Pochettino didn't fall because his ideas stopped working, he fell because the cycle wasn't refreshed in time. The Champions League final should have been the springboard to invest at an elite level. Instead, it was the peak before the drop. Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, elite managers, same ceiling. If Pochettino years were about potential, the Mourinho and Conte appointments were about immediacy. Both were serial winners hired to end the trophy drought, but neither received a squad built in their image. Mourinho inherited a soft, unbalanced team and was given a mix of short-term fixes and long-term projects that didn't align with his win-now demands. Conte publicly pleaded for higher standards and depth quality, often hinting that Spurs' ambition didn't match his own. His explosive exit interview, questioning the club's culture and mentality, echoed frustrations many fans already had with the ownership. In both cases, ENIC hired elite managers but didn't fully commit to the ruthless, expensive squad building those coaches require. It was like buying a Formula One driver and giving him a car built for efficiency, not podiums. Recruitment strategy, smart versus elite. Spurs under ENIC have often operated with a clever recruitment model, targeting players just below the superstar tier, hoping to develop them into world-class talents. And sometimes it worked. Song Heung-min, Christian Eriksen and Dele Alli at his peak. But competing with Manchester City, Real Madrid or Bayern Munich usually requires finished products, not just high upside bets. Spurs have rarely entered that market decisively. Wage structure limits and resale value thinking have often outweighed the urgency to sign established title-ready players. The result? Strong starting 11s on their day, but benches that couldn't sustain challenges across 50 to 60 games a season. An infrastructure versus immediate glory. To be fair, ENIC have transformed Tottenham on off the pitch. The stadium is world class, the training ground is elite, commercial revenues have soared, financial stability is not in question, but football success doesn't automatically flow from infrastructure. At key competitive moments, it has often felt like stadium financing and long-term sustainability took priority over short-term, high-impact squad investment. Other elite clubs spend to win, they then balance the books later. Spurs have to often try to win while balancing them, a far harder path. And the core frustration, the anger towards ENIC, isn't about recklessness, it's about timing and ambition. Spurs have had a Champions League level core under Redknapp, a title contending side under Pochettino, and world-class managers in Mourinho and Conte. Each time the squad needed a final push, 2 or 3 top-class ready-made additions to turn challengers into winners. Each time the push never fully came. So what's the conclusion? Well, Spurs is a club built to compete, but not quite to win. ENIC haven't run Tottenham into the ground, quite the opposite. They've built a modern super club in infrastructure and global profile. But at football's highest level, finishing fourth sustainability isn't the same as building a team capable of finishing first. That said, I'd bite your hand off to finish fourth this season. Until Spurs consistently back their managers with elite decisive recruitment at the exact moment a team is on the rise, the story will continue to be the same. Close, sometimes competitive, sometimes impressive, but never quite enough. Okay, here's my thoughts on all those stories today. Firstly, that Romero post. I really actually like this, to see this from Christian Romero. Some people would turn around and say he shouldn't be getting involved, he shouldn't be speaking out. If Romero don't speak out, if your captain don't speak out, then who is? It kind of gives you a bit of an insight into how perhaps I would say most of the players are feeling behind the scenes, because that post by Romero, the time I last looked, was liked by a lot of his fellow teammates. And you know, the supporters have generally, surrounding that post, come out in support of Romero because they know what he's like. We all know what it's like. We all feel that pain that the manager, the squad haven't been supported again this transfer window. We all know, leading on to the second story there, the transfer window wrap, if you like. We all know the players that Spurs have bought in. It's just not enough again. It's just not enough. Now, you could argue that Frank doesn't want a bloated squad, and that obviously players are going to be coming back from injury over the next few months, you know, hopefully a couple at least by the end of February. But surely you could have done a couple of loan deals for decent ready now players just to help us over the next few months, because I personally still don't think we're in a relegation fight just yet, but we could do with climbing a few places up the table just to secure that. I mean, I didn't think at this point I'd be talking about Premier League survival. I thought we'd be pushing on after that Europa League triumph in Bilbao, but it's actually gone backwards. We're actually now in a worse position than we were at the start of the transfer window. And yes, it was a decent comeback against City, of course it was, but we've got tough games coming up. If we get any more injuries, my word, it's going to be really tough. 11 fit first team players against City. I mean, that was a minor miracle how we got to a point in that game anyway. I just think it's a bit of negligence. They've kind of taken a gamble with this and this window, and you know, sometimes gambles pay off, sometimes they don't. We only need a couple of injuries and we are really in trouble. So let's hope the Tottenham Hotspur squad can come back and get a few players back over the next few weeks, because we could be in trouble if not. And this is a gamble by ENIC that the fans, they're not going to forget in a hurry. Let's face it. And just coming on to ENIC there, that overview, they haven't done enough. And this was the first opportunity for them to show that they are acting differently, and it was Daniel Levy that was the problem. That's what the kind of line we were being read, and nothing's different. Nothing's changed. What's changed? Nothing. Nothing. It's the same old type of window that we've all been used to. Manchester City had their targets. They went out, they bought Gay, they bought Semenyo. They went out and got them now. You could obviously say that's Manchester City. They can attract these type of players. I'm just not convinced we did enough to try and get these players over the line, whoever our targets were. Thomas Frank came out and said, we tried for Semenyo. Okay, well, you've had 4 months to get a list of targets. If Semenyo was your top, well, if he was your number one target, who was number two, who was number three? Just not enough ambition for me. Not enough ambition at all. Very disappointed with this window. And it was a window where we really needed to do more business, and we just didn't again. This club sometimes does your head in, doesn't it? But get down in the comments. Let me know your feelings as a Tottenham Hotspur fan right now. Give me a rating out of 10 on the window. And just we're all in it together. So that's the main thing. It's not just you feeling like this. We all are. But as I say, get down in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling right now as a Spurs fan. And as always, come on you Spurs.